Hi everybody, welcome to this edition of the Broadcast, where we give you bite-sized bits of best practices to help you be a better leader and a more effective communicator. Each week we put a discussion question out on social media, and earlier this week we asked, what's the best piece of crisis communications advice you've ever been given? It was flattering to see a lot of the clients of mine commenting about things that they heard in some of my previous workshops. So thanks for doing that, and thanks for remembering the lessons I've been teaching over the past 20-something years. Among the comments that we got, Michael says, start with an empathy statement. Be prepared and be quick to respond so you can ensure your voice is included. Absolutely, Michael. So two things he calls out: emotional empathy. A lot of lawyers don't want you to say, I'm sorry. Look, they don't want plaintiff's attorney to get any more money than they need to. But if you messed up, you need to convey empathy and apologize for the inconvenience. That's one of the things I love about watching when there's a crisis in Japan. The leaders stand up, they apologize, they take ownership, and they resign and move on with their lives. Meanwhile, Karen says, for actual crisis communications, don't deny or hide anything. And she says, for crisis communications planning, the rule is to plan, predict, and practice in order to perform. Yep, that's something that I taught her. I've got a graphic I use when I'm doing an on-stage presentation that talks about the dilemma that tends to happen. There's a predicament followed by panic, followed by decision paralysis. And what you ultimately want is to have a great plan that you practice in a crisis communications drill. And if you practice on a sunny day, you'll perform well on your darkest day. Nick says, don't let the want to know information hold up a news release because you're waiting for need to know information. So often, organizations send out no news release because they're trying to gather all the facts. I like to tell people, think of crisis communications as an information buffet. So let's say you go to one of these casinos that has a buffet. There's going to be soup, there's going to be salad, there's going to be entree with crab claws at the end of the line, and then there's going to be tiramisu for dessert. A little bit, a big meal, a little bit more. That's the way you should give out information. Give what you know and add to it. Good job on that, Nick. Laura says, always remember there is no consensus in crisis. Wow, that is really true. Good advice, whoever gave you that. I've been in war rooms many times, and I listen to people pontificate and disagree, and that leads to decision paralysis, and no information is conveyed to the outside world. Have a good crisis communications plan that is designed to help you gather information, confirm information, and disseminate that information. Write the plan on a clear sunny day, practice it on a clear sunny day, have your leaders buy into what it says so that the consensus happens on the clear sunny day and gets followed in the heart of the crisis. Lindsay says something that I can't really agree with. Lindsay says, don't focus on crafting the perfect soundbite. She says, authenticity is far more powerful. So that's the best crisis communications advice she was ever given. I didn't give that. I would actually give the opposite advice. I would say, parse every word carefully and don't be spontaneous. It's the ad libs that get you in trouble. So here's an example, a case study I use all the time. In 2010, there was the Gulf oil crisis in which the Deepwater Horizon rig spilled oil in the Gulf of Mexico, and it was BP's responsibility to clean it up. And the CEO at the time was asked a simple question. He was asked, what would you like to say to the people of Louisiana who have been impacted by the oil spill? And he said this, he said, we're terribly sorry for the horrible disruption this has caused their lives. And then in an authentic fashion, he went on to say, no one wants this over with more than I do. I'd like my life back. That was an authentic statement that had no empathy to the audience, because 5 years before, 100,000 fishermen had lost everything they owned in Hurricane Katrina. And now they couldn't fish again, and they were out of work because of Tony Hayward. He can't say and own a statement like he wants it over with more than anyone else, because those fishermen wanted it over with more than anyone else. Authenticity did not serve him well. A parsed statement that is read with few ad libs, in my opinion, is much better. But thank you, Lindsay, for your contribution on that. David says, have empathy and inherently understand your stakeholders. And that goes just to the point that I was making about know who your stakeholders are. In addition to knowing them, know how they want to get information. Do they want to get it from social media? Do they want to get it from your news site, on your web page? Do you need a news release, an email to all employees? Know that audience. And we wrap things up with Chris saying that her best advice that she was ever given was, if you don't know something, it's okay to say you don't know. That is a great piece of advice. Don't try to make it up on the spot. You can use phrases like, good question, I don't have that information, I'll get back to you, what's your deadline? Don't try to fake it if you don't know the answer. It's okay to say I don't know. All right, some good discussion responses here this week. The broadcast gets more special every time you guys all contribute. So thank you for all of your input. And look, everybody doesn't have to agree every week. That's what the broadcast is about. It's allowing you to share your best practices so you can compare those to your colleagues, and ultimately we all grow as leaders and communicators. Well, thanks for being a part of this week's discussion for the broadcast. I'm Jared Breaux.